That night, our old house was only filled with Lily's snores on the baby monitor. All was silent otherwise. We depended on the gadget to watch our daughter while we slept. Parenthood was finally familiar to my wife Sarah and me. Our mountaintop cabin was the perfect escape from the city. The nearby forest's peace was disturbed by an eerie creaking sound we heard on that night. The sound began softly, like a creaking wooden floor, but grew louder and persistent. I woke up suddenly with a racing heart. We stared at the baby monitor, Sarah awake and scared. The echoing monitor made my arm hair stand. Sarah whispered, "Did you hear that?" I nodded with a dry throat. Seemed like an upstairs floor, our daughter's room. We heard other sounds besides the house moving. There were various sounds, including whispers coming from the monitor. We heard nothing in the house. Although there were only two of us, it seemed like someone was speaking through the monitor, incomprehensibly. We exchanged glances while staring at each other. As parents, we knew we had to investigate. Louder voices were heard. We entered Lily's room. Opening the door made us uneasy. The baby was sleeping, unaware of the strange sound. Voices changed from whispers to clear, but unintelligible. It was an unfamiliar, unsettling experience. We didn't hear the sounds in the room. We approached Lily's bed, Sarah instructing me to enter, and we stayed focused on her the whole time. The room was empty, but voices seemed to be coming from it. We searched everywhere, but no one else was in the room. I told Sarah we must leave immediately, heart racing. We left as the voices grew louder. We took shallow breaths and hid in the hallway. Despite being on the floor, the baby monitor continued to emit mysterious voices, with their origin still unclear. I turned off the baby monitor. The silence was agonizing after the voices ceased. We stared at each other, reflecting fear in our eyes. Sarah urged to go immediately. We heard terrifying noises as we left the room and went downstairs. Despite the silence, we chose to stay in the living room with Lily for the evening. Frustration grew as the evening went on. We entered Lily's room at sunrise. She continued to drift off, unfazed by the strange events of the evening. We searched the space for signs of what happened. No strange noises or creaking. No open windows or unlocked doors. Everything seemed normal. It was easy to dismiss the previous night's events as our tired minds playing tricks on us in the daylight. The anxiety was real. We prepared our belongings as if we wouldn't return. Leaving the unsettling alpine retreat, I felt we had encountered something incomprehensible and illogical. The baby monitor was once essential. Now it leads to the unknown. We can only assume, based on what we know. We realized there are inexplicable mysteries at home waiting to be discovered. It transformed into a sinister place from a peaceful mountain retreat. I used to think that OnlyFans was just an easy way to make some extra money. You know, post sexy pictures, get paid. Simple, right? False. Totally wrong. It all started when I got this creepy message from some random guy. He claimed that he saw myself in my underwear without even paying. Tempted me, man. How the hell was that even possible? I got it at first and thought it was just some weirdo trying to mess with me. But then he sent me a picture, a photo of me in my room. I was wearing exactly the same clothes I was wearing at that moment. I felt like throwing up. How the hell did he get it? Was he a hacker or something? A million questions raced through my head, but I was too scared to think straight. I tried to ignore him, but he kept sending me new messages. Terrible, like he was watching my every move. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, I couldn't focus on anything other than this idiot who somehow had access to my private space. I tried changing passwords, deleting my account, everything. But he still found a way to contact me. And every time he did, it felt like a cold hand grabbed my heart, squeezing harder and harder. Finally, he just stopped. No more messages or scary pictures. But the damage was done. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that I was being maligned in the worst way. I still don't know how he did it. Maybe he was some kind of tech genius, or maybe he had an obscure connection to the dark web. All I know is that I will never feel safe again, not in my own skin or in my own home. I hope this scoundrel who invaded my privacy and made my life a living nightmare, I hope you are happy. You got what you wanted, right? You scared me away from OnlyFans for good. But let me tell you something, buddy. You may have won this round, but I won't let you spoil me. I will find a way to take back control and regain a sense of security. And if you ever try to mess with me again, just say you don't like what's going on, because this time I'm ready. I don't want to be a victim this time.
The air crackled with energy as the metal concert began. My buddy Jake and I stood in awe, surrounded by a sea of headbangers ready to be unleashed. The band was blasting it out on stage, destroying riffs like no other. However, about halfway through the performance, the atmosphere completely changed. A drunk man in front started yelling at one of the band members, demanding that a certain song be played. His voice was hoarse, and his eyes were wild as if possessed. We all exchanged worried looks, wondering what this guy was doing. The band tried to ignore him and continue playing, but the drunk man refused to give up. He became louder and more aggressive. He started threatening that he would hurt someone if he didn't play his damn song. That's when the situation went from noisy to downright scary. Suddenly the music stopped when the group realized it was not a harmless thug. This guy was serious. Panic gripped the crowd as people realized what was happening. As I watched the scene unfold before my eyes, I felt a knot form in my stomach. Before anyone could react, the drunk man pulled a knife out of nowhere. The flash of the blade sent shivers down my spine. Chaos erupted around us, and we could hear screams echoing off the walls. It was like a nightmare. Without thinking, I grabbed Jake's hand and dragged him to the nearest exit. I had to get out of there before things got worse. But as I walked through the crowd of frightened spectators, I couldn't shake the feeling of fear that was eating away at me from within. We'd barely reached the door when we heard a knock behind us. When I turned around, I saw a drunk man lunging at another poor man in the crowd, his knife glinting in the dim light. As I watched in horror, my heart raced and I felt completely helpless. But then, out of nowhere, a group of daredevils burst in and knocked the drunk man to the ground. They took the knife from his hands and restrained him until security intervened. It was like a movie. Strangers band together to protect each other in the face of danger. As the chaos subsided and the adrenaline began to wear off, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. We were safe because of the intelligence and courage of those around us. But the image of that knife glowing in the dark will haunt me for a long time. We left the concert hall in shock, but alive. What was supposed to be a night of music and chaos turned into something much more sinister. And as I drove home in the stillness of the night, I couldn't help but wonder what other horrors were lurking in the shadows, waiting to strike when I least expected it.
It was a stupid accident. I broke my leg, so I was stuck in the hospital here. The place had a typical sterile smell, and the constant beeping of machines drove me crazy. But that was nothing compared to what happened that night. I was laying there trying to sleep when I heard it clear. "Help me!" My heart pounded against my chest. I stopped and just thought I was hearing things. Maybe the meds messed with my head. But then I heard it again, louder this time. "Help me!" It sounded desperate, pleading. My blood ran cold. Who the hell was in the room next to me, and why were they calling for help in the middle of the night? I tried to shake the chill creeping up my spine. Maybe someone had problems. Maybe they needed me. I called and asked if they were okay, if they needed anything. But all I got in response was the same frustration. "Help me!" I couldn't ignore it. Ignoring it would be like turning my back on the person drowning in front of me. So I jumped out of bed and was startled by the pain that shot up my leg. I stumbled to the door and looked down the hall. It was empty. No nurses or doctors, just the eerie glow of emergency lights. Breathing shakily, I went to the next room. The door was closed, but I could still hear a voice calling for help. I pushed the door open, my heart pounding in my chest. But the room was empty. There was nobody there, just an empty hospital bed, bathed in dim moonlight pouring in from the window. I stood still and tried to make sense of everything. Did I imagine the whole thing? The next day, I dared to ask one of the nurses in the next room. I tried to sound casual, but my voice shook as I spoke. I asked if anyone was staying there, if they were okay. The nurse looked at me. His expression was unreadable. Then he sighed and shook his head. "This room?" he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "This room has been empty for days. The man who was there, he died almost a week ago." My blood turned to ice. I felt a chill creep up my spine. The sound I heard, it couldn't be true. It couldn't be the man who died. But what was it? Who called for help in the dark night? I couldn't shake the fear that gripped me. The hospital suddenly seemed like a completely different place. A darker place. As I lay there in bed, looking at the empty room beside me, I couldn't help but wonder, what other secrets did this place hold? Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed these stories, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.
Imagine being on a school field trip, laughing with friends, when you suddenly stumble upon something buried in the ground. We discovered something that turned our adventure into a living nightmare. Hi, I'm Sarah, and this is the story of the most terrifying day of my life. I've always been the adventurous type, often brushing off warnings and diving headfirst into new experiences. My friends say I'm reckless, and maybe they're right. But what they don't know is that I have a deep-seated fear of being alone in unfamiliar places. It's a fear I've never admitted to anyone. Until now. It was a sunny Friday morning, and my classmates and I were on a field trip to Woodland Forest, a place known for its sprawling trails and serene beauty. As we explored, I suggested we venture off the beaten path. It seemed like a good idea at the time, an adventure to impress my friends. Hours passed, and the sun began to set. We realized we were lost. Panic set in as we grasped the reality of our situation. We were in the middle of the forest with no way out. As dusk turned to night, the forest transformed. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig sent shivers down our spines. We huddled together, trying to stay calm. Suddenly, a piercing scream echoed through the trees. We spun around, but there was nothing there. Just as we began to rationalize the sound, a dark figure darted between the trees, too fast to be an animal. In the chaos, my friend Jason got separated from the group. We heard his frantic cries for help, but when we reached the spot, he was gone without a trace. The terror intensified as we realized we were being hunted by something or someone in the forest. One by one, my friends disappeared, until only Emily and I remained. Then it happened. While running through the dense underbrush, Emily tripped over a hidden root and fell, badly injuring her leg. I watched in horror as she struggled to stand, but couldn't. The sound of approaching footsteps sent a chill down my spine as I realized we were utterly vulnerable. Desperate for answers, I stumbled upon an old, abandoned ranger station while trying to find help. Inside, I found disturbing evidence. Maps of the forest with marked spots, articles about missing hikers, and photographs of people who eerily resembled my missing friends. I realized this wasn't the first time someone had vanished here. Knowing we were in real danger, I decided we couldn't just wait for help. I found an old walkie-talkie in the ranger station and managed to get a signal out. I told the person on the other end our location and what was happening, but I knew it might take time for help to arrive. With Emily unable to move quickly, I had to think fast. I found a heavy flashlight and a rusty old axe in the ranger station. We decided to barricade ourselves inside and wait for help, but we knew the attacker might find us first. We heard footsteps outside, then banging on the door. The attacker was trying to get in. My heart raced as I gripped the axe, ready to defend us. The door creaked and splintered, and suddenly he was inside. I swung the axe with all my strength, managing to fend him off long enough for Emily to hit him with the flashlight. It was a terrifying struggle, but we managed to knock him unconscious just as we heard sirens in the distance. Help had finally arrived. The authorities arrived, and the man was taken into custody. Emily and I were rescued, but the ordeal left deep scars. Woodland Forest, once a place of beauty, became a haunting reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface. My confidence was shattered, replaced by a cautious respect for the unknown. And as for the forest, it remains closed to the public, but those who live nearby whisper that on quiet nights, you can still hear the faint echoes of the lost.